Yo, welcome back to the No Bullshit Podcast. It's Cochran.
Yo, what's up, this Kyle?
And yeah, man, shoot. Games 3, Game 4. If you guys don't know, Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals. It has been crazy games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about these playoffs, man. That, sometimes you might underlook an opponent. Sometimes, you might overlook an opponent, right? And so, all these games, for what we can say is that they've all been very, very close,
Yep.
down to the wire type of games. And honestly, that's what we love as fans, right? Especially if you're a neutral, right? If you're not a fan of either teams, you just see it just to watch basketball. And, it's definitely fed families. So, with that
100%.
said, Kai, start off with the Celtics.
Okay. We'll start off with Boston, Indiana. So obviously in our last video, we discussed game 1 and 2. We'll be talking about game 3 and 4. Quick before we really get into anything, rest in peace to Bill Walton, right?
Yep.
NBA legend, NBA media legend, right, for the Trailblazers and Celtics. So again, he passed away, I believe, a couple of days ago. So rest in peace and thoughts out to him and his family. But yeah, onto Celtics, Indiana. So game 3. It was actually, we got a Celtics comeback, right? Indiana was up for a lot of this game. It really looked like that they would be able to, at least steal one game off the Celtics, and they kind of failed in terms of the closing. Just some small stats about game 3. Jason Tatum 36 points, Jaylen Brown 24, Al Horford had 23. In the fourth quarter, the Celtics actually won the fourth quarter, 33-21. You know what I mean? It was a lot of contributions from Indiana side. It's just they just could not close the game. Just could not seal the deal. And this was something that was not necessarily because obviously game 4, the Celtics also won that game, sweeping the Indiana Pacers. Also a game that Indiana was up for a good bit of it. But something I was looking at when I was looking through the stats, and it's just like, obviously they're moving on to the finals. It is something for whether it's Minnesota, whether it's Dallas. One of the things you're going to have to deal with is the fact that Boston, they get up a lot of threes. They I believe game 3 they shot 26 threes. Let me see game 4.
46 for the game 3.
That's what it was. Yeah, game 4 they shot 44 3-pointers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I believe more than half of their team's attempted shots, it was actually like one shot less was threes, right? And that's kind of been their identity throughout the entire season, is especially under the Joe Mazzulla era, is we're going to put up a lot of 3-point shots, right? And it's one of those things where, if their team is hot, if their team is rolling, it's really hard to beat this team, right? Because they're, I believe, they're a top 3, top 5 defense, and at the same time they're shooting the 3 at this high of a clip with this level of efficiency. That's a hard team to beat. You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to outshoot them, but it's hard to outshoot that defense, right? So, pretty much one through 4, they can all switch, they can all play defense, they can all move their feet, right? So there's nobody in this starting 5, especially, with the announcement that Kristaps Porzingis is probably going to be back for the finals. There's nobody you can attack, right? There's nobody you can single out and say, okay, you are the person that we're gonna, pick on. And that's something that, whether Dallas or Minnesota throughout their, last 2 matchups, and even, this matchup, they've had guys to say, okay, we're going to pick on you, right? So no matter, who makes it to the next level, that's going to be, a major road bump for them, right? To see, how do they scheme against that? Like, what is their game plan against, the Boston Celtics? Because, you're talking about a team that's only lost 2 games in the playoffs so far, right? Like, when you're talking about taking care of business, that's what the Boston Celtics have done, right? I know there's a lot of discourse around, this team being injured and this team not having that player, but at the end of the day, you can only play who's in front of you. And a lot of the playoffs is a war of attrition, right? Like the best teams and the teams that ultimately win the championship, 9 times out of 10, are the healthiest and most talented team. And for right now, at least out east, that is the Boston Celtics. So yeah, and then it's honestly impressive the amount of level of dominance that they've shown so far in this playoff run, right? Like we're not really accustomed to this. At least the last couple of seasons, it's been pretty competitive. It's a lot of game sevens with at least I believe the last 3 years the champion at least played 6 games in a series. You know what I mean? So the fact that they haven't made it past 5 games and including Eastern Conference Finals sweep is mad impressive.
Yeah, man, and just to go on top of that, when you talking about the dominance of the Celtics right now, I'm pretty sure the last time we've seen something like this was I'm pretty sure the Warriors team where they had KD, right? And so, honestly, like you said, I give all credit to the Celtics. As much as we want to say, yes, they've had the easy road to the playoffs. I mean to the finals rather. They had to get the job done. And honestly, these last 2 games, was it a blowout? No, not at all. Right? I credit to them full-heartedly about they needed it to be battle tested, right? And it was like, yeah, sure, the Pacers didn't close it out, but you could say that at the end of the day, they sealed the deal in the end, right? They show like what you want to see from a championship team before the finals is that they have the ability to not only win with a lead, but also win without a lead, right? Late in games, right? And so I think Game 3 really showed that. Like you said, the Pacers they were on one, right? They were just spraying threes, they just couldn't miss, right? I'm pretty sure that game, Nimhard, shout out to Nimhard, he had 32 points, right? Shout out to TJ McConnell. Once again, we've been saying TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin for the Pacers have been one of the most underrated role players throughout these whole playoffs, right? Especially TJ McConnell, which he had 23 points, and then he gave you some assists, and then also some other things as well, right? And so yeah, it was just very hard to see the Pacers just choke that lead, call it what it is, right? And so it was just very frustrating at that. But at the same time, you just gotta credit Tatum for Game 3. He had a monster game. I think you said 36. Was it 36 points, right? And so it also had the. Let's see. I think Game 4, Jaylen Brown wasn't having a good game, but the second half he scored 20-something points, right?
Yep.
Which helped carry that Celtics team to the end, right? And which Jaylen Brown, he won the MVP of the Eastern Conference, right? I think it's the Larry Bird Award, I believe, right? And it's shout out to them, doing it for a Celtics player winning a Celtics player named trophy, and doing it for Bill Walton as well, right? So it's shout out to them. But I think I won't speak too much about the Celtics because we all know that honestly, were they expected to win this series? For sure, right? But their destiny or their I guess like final outlook on their everybody's careers, legacies, right? Their legacies for this season does not matter about the Eastern Conference Finals. It matters about getting the job done, right? So we'll speak to them about them in a little bit more. But switching over to the Pacers' point of view, honestly, if I'm a Pacers fan, am I upset that maybe we should have been up 3-1 or 2-1 or like at least 2-2? Yeah, sure, for sure, right? But what I can't say is that at least my team never tried. At least we didn't put in a fight, right? Because everybody counted them out. And yes, if you didn't look at the game, if you didn't watch the game and you just looked at the box score, right? You would say, oh, Celtics did their thing, and it's like 4. It's a sweep. You took the Eastern opponent, Eastern Conference opponent, to the very end. Everybody doubted you. You came back. You tried your best to you basically try to get the job done while not having your best player. Mind you, these last 2 games they play with the lead without their best player.
Yep.
Right. And so it can only imagine
how maybe if they had Halliburton, maybe they could have finished it off, right? But honestly, this Pacers team, they always surprise me from from the first round, the second round, and all the way to the conference finals. So I think depending what they do for the off season, they could be a team to look out for, and it's always interesting to see what new teams can be out there, or from worst to first type of thing, right? And so Pacers are definitely on the upward trajectory.
Yeah. Pretty much what you were saying. Like the Indiana was playing with house money. You know what I mean? Like nobody really expected them to make any real noise in the playoffs, let alone get out of the first round, right? And they want to make it into the Eastern Conference Finals. And like you said, it may have been a sweep, but it was a very, very close sweep. Every single game was close. Every single game. We even got an overtime game. You know what I mean? So it was a great series overall. Even again as a non-biased fan, my team doesn't have a dog in the race, but it's one of those things where it was just good basketball on both sides. Crazy shots, a lot of great moments. But you kind of talked about it, and I kind of want to give my opinion a little bit on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jason Tatum has to be the most polarizing, non-polarizing person in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You talk about his personality, like he doesn't talk a lot. You know what I mean? Like, there's not much that is known about Jason Tatum besides he has a son and that he's 19 years old. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Right? Like, it's not much known about him, right? But, and maybe it's just because he plays on the Boston Celtics, right? Like, everybody hates the Boston Celtics. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like a byproduct of that. But, it's been a lot of discourse around Jason Tatum in terms of, he's not clutch. He hasn't had any great moments. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And even just like this, like, Jaylen Brown, there's also a lot of talks about Jaylen Brown, like, being the best player on his team. That's not true. Like, and for whatever reason, every single year, if we have, like, a duo, the media just loves to break them up, right? Instead of giving them both respect and love, we always try to put one over the other. We always try to tear one down and lift one up, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you remember back to, just last season, with the champions, it was always people were questioning who's more important. Is it Jamal Murray? Is it Jokic? Before them with the Bucks, who's Batman? Who's Robin? Chris Middleton and Giannis. And it's like, and it's no disrespect to Chris Middleton, Jamal Murray, or Jaylen Brown, but they just aren't the best players on their team. They're without a doubt the second best player, right? And when you are the second best player, there's going to be times where the number one guy, he just doesn't have it that night. And that's the reason why you're the number two. Listen, if Jokic doesn't have it, if Giannis doesn't have it, if Jason Tatum doesn't have it, okay, it's my time. I have to pick up, you know what I mean? I got to fill in where he's lacking. And that's the whole team sport aspect of it all, right? Like, not one person can win a game, not one person can win a series. And when it comes down to the Larry Bird Trophy, I understood, right, like why Jaylen Brown got it, right. Like, a lot of people could argue, he had a lot more memorable moments throughout the series, whether it's the 40 ball, whether it's the stealing past Scott Siakam and then the clutch three to send it to overtime. You know what I mean? Like, plays like that, right? But if you just look at just the overall stats, like Jason Tatum, in 4 games, he had 121 points to Jaylen Brown's 119. He had 41 rebounds to Jaylen Brown's 20 rebounds. He had 25 assists to Jaylen Brown's 12. He had 5 steals. Jaylen Brown had 8. He had 2 blocks. Jaylen Brown had 3. He shot 46% from the field. Brown shot 51. And then from 3, Tatum shot 30. Brown shot 37. So very, very close, right? Very, very close. And that is the beauty of this tandem, is that, for the longest time, for a bulk of their career, there were talks of, you got to break them up. They don't work well with each other. And as they've matured as players and as men, their games have matured together. And in my opinion, they work perfectly next to each other. They're one of the best duos in the league. I feel like that's not even up for debate, right?
100%.
And again, this is no hate towards Jaylen Brown because again, I can see why they gave it to him. He's definitely deserving, but let's not act like because Jason Tatum didn't get this award that he got carried or that he didn't do his job. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum did their job, and if it wasn't for either of them, this series would be looking a lot different.
Yeah, 100%. And and also just even credit not only honestly, that's the thing about Tatum, right? Just going back to the Tatum thing where people want to bash Jason Tatum every chance they get a chance. Every time they get a chance, right? And honestly, have I been on that boat? I'll be honest, yes I have. Right? But it was warranted, right? Because there have been moments where he did not get the job done. Right? When they played the Warriors in the finals a few years ago or something like that, right? He was not the best player in that series on his team. That was Jaylen Brown. And I think that's where it all started, right? Where things started to, increase about, the antics about him, right? And then, having, losing to the Heat, I believe, last year in the conference finals, right? That's just not unacceptable. I get the Heat, they were on a miracle run, but you were favored to win that series by a good about a mile. Let's be honest here, right? And so for you not to get it done, and you've been there so many times, people start to question your legacy. Are you a winner, right? And honestly, I still think of him as still a winner, right? There's a reason why he's been to the conference finals, right? And and this is where I bring up his teammates. You can't fault a superstar player with great teammates. You can't do that, right? And that's part of being a GM, right? You're supposed to surround your best player with the best amount, of other good players. You know what I'm saying, right? So when you have a guy in a Derek White who can also not only score but play tremendous defense. I'm pretty sure he was first team all defense or something like that, right? And you still got Jaylen Brown, your counterpart, who also plays defense. Everybody on that starting five plays defense, man. Even Al Horford, I think he's an unsung hero on the Celtics team, especially when Porzingis out, right? Because when Porzingis went out, people were like, "Wait, maybe the Celtics might have some trouble here." Especially if this goes back to the Cavs series, where, if they were able to get Jarrett Allen back, right? And so, people were just thinking about that. But Al Horford been, just quietly just doing his thing, doing his job, and just motivating this team because he is a veteran, right? And I think he's a slept-on veteran where, I know Sixers fans, I hear a lot, when he was on the Sixers, there was calling, and he went to the Celtics.
Man.
Yep,
he was a double agent. He was. He was looking at Joel Embiid all in practice, studying his moves, writing them down. So he went back to Boston. He could become the Joel Embiid stopper, man. And also his. Never mind. Anyway,
we're not gonna get into that. But no, yeah, just shout out the roster building in general of their GM. And I think the GM right now is Brad Stevenson, I think now, right? That was her former coach, right? So shout out to just them. So Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Let's just say they're both very good players, and honestly, you can honestly say Jaylen Brown is on the cusp of being a superstar, and him having that contract. He should be warranted as a superstar, but we just don't look at it that way just yet, right? And honestly, when you look back at the I think it was the All NBA teams, right? Yeah. Especially since it's now I think no position, so it's versatile, pretty much. You could it's pretty much a top 15 player list, right? So to not have him in the top 15, you might have to question is wait a minute, he's not a top 15, he's playing really good right now. Right, but yeah, shout out to the Pacers, and the Celtics are moving on to the finals.
Yeah. This will be the second finals appearance, the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum era. So we'll see if they can get it done. But listen, they're gonna have a tough time with either of these teams coming out west, right? When we talk about the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. Game 3, crazy game. Anthony Edwards had 26 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. He shot 11 for 25 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. He had 5 turnovers. Cat, 14 points, 11 rebounds. 5 for 18 from the field, 0 for 8 from the 3-point line. In totality, the Wolves shot 9 for 30, which is 30% from three. They shot 12 for 17 from the free throw line, 70%. They took 85 total shots, and they also went 5 minutes in the fourth quarter without scoring, right? And you're talking about a final score that is very close, right? So, and before I really get into the dollar side, this is just something that I want to get off my chest, right? There's been also a lot of discourse around Rudy Gobert, right? He's a fake defensive player of the year. You got Kendrick Perkins, which, by the way, if you're getting your NBA knowledge from Kendrick Perkins, I don't know what to tell you, right? He's, I regret giving him my vote. And this is the crazy thing, right? We're talking about a team that in this series so far, every game they've lost, like combined, they've lost by 13 points, right? So every game's been close, right? So far, I believe Game 3 was the first game that Dallas got above, I think, like 106 points, right? You're talking about the modern NBA. So the problem is not the defense. Rudy Gobert is not making the team shoot 9 for 30 from the three-point line, right? The problem is their offense. And this has been something that I said, in our playoff preview, is the issue in the Achilles heel for the Minnesota Timberwolves is their offense. It has been all season.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They've been a top 3 defense the entire season, but I believe ranked 16th in offense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we saw them against Phoenix, their offense came alive, right?
Yeah.
More importantly, AINT came alive. Where it was like, okay, if this guy can play on this level, with this level of team defense, they can really do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as we've seen in these last 2 series, AINT has slowly but surely come back down to earth, right? To really what he was during the regular season, which that's just not enough. And yes, he is 22. He is very young, but let's slow down on the Michael Jordan talks. Right?
Please.
Slow down on the best player in the world talks. And again, this is not any hate to Ant. He's one of my favorite players in the league. But I feel like sometimes NBA fans get too caught up in the legacy talk. They get too caught up in who's going to be the next. Well, just watch basketball, man. Enjoy the moments. Enjoy the journey. Because every single legend in NBA history, they didn't hit the ground running, right? They had to go get through some level of adversity before they broke through, right? There's a reason why most superstars don't even win their first championship until at least 27 years old. And a lot of them come into the league 2021. So you got about 7-8 years of figuring it out, right? So allow the Timberwolves to figure it out. Very similarly to the Pacers. At the beginning of the season, nobody had the Timberwolves getting this far.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't even think they were favorites to win like 45 games.
Yeah.
Right? They want to win 50, finishing I think second in the West and get. You know what I mean? So allow the story to play out, right? And just be a watcher. Because if you look at basketball through that lens, number one, it's way less stressful, right? And 100%. I think a lot of it is with the rise of sports betting. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where you got people blowing people's parlays and all this, so they hate these players. But it's like, bro, just watch the games. Just enjoy basketball, bro. Mm-hmm. So again, Ant Cat did not have a good game 3. Contrast, Luka in game 3, 33 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He had 6 stocks, 5 of them being steals. He had 5 steals.
Come on.
He shot 5-11 from 3. Kyrie Irving, Mr. Clutch himself, 33 points. He shot 3 for 6 from the 3-point line, and PJ Washington, 16 points, 8 rebounds. The Mavericks in game 3 shot 14 for 28, obviously 50% from 3. They shot 26 for 31 from the free throw line, 83.9%. And this is the crazy thing. Like, they won, and they only shot 68 shots, right? Like, they didn't even hit 70 shots, and they won by a solid enough margin, right? So this is the level of team that Dallas is, right? Where it's one of those things, like, when they get hot, when Luka gets hot, he is one of the most unguardable players in the league, right? There's no game plan for Luka Doncic. You just have to hope and pray that night he just doesn't have it, right? In the last two series, he hasn't really had it. But in this series, as time goes on, he gets healthier and healthier, right? He's still playing battling through his injuries, but you can tell he's starting to become back to playoff Luka that we become accustomed to. And Kyrie Irving, him and Kyrie Irving can really solidify themselves as the best, backcourt in the league, right? They've done enough to stake their claim as we are the best backcourt in the league. When you talk about, you got two guys that can hit clutch shots, you got two guys that can be a closer. And in all these games, right, the Wolves have led in the final 5 minutes of every fourth quarter in this series. Every single fourth quarter, 5 minutes left, the Timberwolves have been up. But the issue that I've been saying a lot of times with these playoff teams is some of these teams are just too young, right? You're talking about a Dallas team where Luka, outside of already all his extensive basketball, experience, this is his second Western Conference final, right? This is his second deep playoff run. He knows what it feels like to make it this far into the season. Kyrie Irving, a former champion, right? It's a bunch of these guys that have been in this position before. Jason Kidd, right? Whether as a player, as a coach, he's been in tough playoff matchups where you can clearly tell there is an experience gap. And the biggest discrepancy, again, is in the closing, right? When it gets to the final 5 minutes of the game, the Timberwolves, they go cold. The Mavericks, they get hot. And so far, that has been the key determining factor so far in this series. Minnesota did win Game 4 to force a Game 6, but it's just one of those things where it's like, I mean, the history speaks for itself, right? No team has ever come back down from 3-0. I don't predict that the Minnesota Timberwolves will be the first. I just think Dallas is just way too good. I think they've proven that even in this last game that they won, it was close, right? So I'm definitely looking for, Game 6 for the Mavericks to, try to put an end to this, because they don't want to play, they don't want the Celtics to potentially get a bunch of games rest, and they're coming off of a 7-game series. You know what I mean? So I definitely feel like they'll definitely be, playing with a mission.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, going back to Game 3, what can I say, man? It's just Luka doing Luka things and Kyrie doing Kyrie things. Brother Irving, that's what I call him, Brother Irving. Some people like to call him Uncle Drew, but I call him Brother Irving, right? And Luka, it's just amazing to get to know when you have a team where you have two closers that you can always count on, right? Late in the fourth, in the fourth, just the fourth in general, right? As soon as Luka checks back in, he was on a mission. He was a man on a fucking mission, man. Like, and talk about, every shot, honestly, the Bulls are playing great defense, right? But it's just better offense beats better good defense, right? And that's always been the case, right? Luka, he's hitting shots over Cat, hitting shots over McDaniels. I think one time on Nas Reed, and then Kyrie, sparking. I think the fast break pull up threes. He's perfected it. He has perfected it down the stretch, right? He's been constantly doing it, right? And I think one player that from that Game 3 that I gotta shout out is Daniel Gafford. He was having a shit show the whole game, right? And that was probably maybe because he was in foul trouble, of course, right? But late down the stretch, the last few minutes, he was probably, you could say, the most important key player during that stretch, that maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute stretch, where He got a block. He got one alley-oop dunk for one end, right? Came back the other end on the next play. Got a crucial block on Mike Conley. And then comes back the other end and hits a dunk that was crazy on Rudy Gobert. And, just the emotion that I see from him is just, it's refreshing to see that, guys like, and also PJ Washington, right? Where they might not be having the great game that we expect, but late down the stretch, they always will do their thing in the sense that PJ Washington can go, 0-7 for the whole one quarters 1 to 3. Then he gets to the fourth, he's still shooting them. He's still shooting them, and that's the thing where every time, and this is the little things that I see about this team that I've never seen before, is that they have a togetherness, right? Where after every foul, after any foul, any call that the ref make or anything, every time they get a chance where the player is dead, they huddle up together and they come together and just talk. And just talk to each other. Yo, we got this. Stay calm. Let's keep this going, right? And it was just very refreshing to see that every single time. And then but yeah, after he hits that basically the dagger dunk, he hit the free throw that he had, and that was pretty much the game. And like you said, it was still a pretty close game for whatever the score said, 116 to 107. It was a 9-point game, but it was we didn't pull away until like the very very end, right? But for sure, that game 3 was our best offensive outing in this series for sure. Especially from the Luka and Kyrie standpoint, where they both show up and everybody else, follow the way. But then the thing I want to talk about in Game 3, though, before I get into Game 4, is Cat and Ant. Before Game 4, Cat in the last 5 games, right, shot 35% from the field goals, right? Out of those 35%, he was 4 of 32 from 3. 12.5%, 13% basically. And he calls himself the best, big man shooter of all time. You can't be saying that if you putting up these type of numbers, man. And I get it. He's putting those, shots up. But at some point, you just gotta, put your head down and, go to the rack. Right? Especially when they play a lineup with Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert is on the bench. He has to get down a low post, right? He is a center for a reason, right? He was a former number 1 pick as well, so he better start acting like a number 1 pick, right? And before Ant was here, he was the guy, right? And we've always there's players around the league where we see from year to year where it's like, what, we think that guy's going to take a jump, right? And has he taken that lead that we expected? Not necessarily, right? There's still room for him to grow, but there's something more about him that I will talk about in Game 4. But for Ant in Game 3, in the last 5 minutes, it was just horrible. It was horrible. Like you said, they barely made any field goals, right? In the last 5 minutes of the game. I want to show you. And mind you, pretty sure Anthony Edwards, he didn't check back into the fourth quarter until I think they gave him a lot of rest and in the fourth quarter, which showed he was really tired, and we all know that, right? And I'll show you his touches in the fourth quarter, and this is pretty much from the 6-minute mark. He made at 5-minute 54, he makes a layup. He's 1 for 1. He doesn't take another touch until the second minute, the 2-minute mark, right? That's almost a 3-minute gap. You're telling me, oh no, more than a 3-minute gap, right? And then he missed the layup. He's 1 for 2. After that, he gets a steal, then turns the ball over right away. And at the end, he does not get another shot off until 15 seconds left. So you tell me the last 6 minutes of the game, he was 2 of 3, a steal, and a turnover. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. it was just very frustrating for the as the Timberwolves, as like the Timberwolves point of view. If I was a fan, I'll be pissed. I'm telling my team and I'm telling my teammate Anthony Edwards like, yo, take the ball and put it in your hands. We want you to carry us to the finish line, right? If you want to, and that's the thing about the MJ thing that I don't like is that we gotta stay in the moment, but not be prisoners of the moment. You know what I mean? And the thing is that we're too quickly to crown people very early on when nothing has ever happened yet, right? Are we the thing is that are we seriously going to compare him to MJ after one or two series in a playoff game? Like Kobe has said countless times, and it's been replayed, compilations. Job ain't finished. Job ain't finished, man. And that's the thing about and I'm not saying that Ant won't get there. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that as of right now, he is not the complete player. So let's not compare him or put him on the trajectory of a complete player like MJ. You know what I mean? And so, that's something we could talk about maybe a few more years later down the line. But as of right now, for what I've seen, Ant is not there. He is not. And what fans need to realize is that he is not the best player in this series. I'm gonna say that again. He is not the best player in this series. I don't care what ESPN says. I don't care what articles say about the best top 25 players in the league and stuff like that right now. It's all BS. It's always been Luka. It's always been Luka. And as much as people want to talk about, Anthony Edwards doing, going off. He did go off in Game 4, and Cat did his thing in Game 4. But it's just not right to just talk upright about somebody, but just bring somebody down, right? When they did nothing wrong, they have done nothing wrong besides doing the best they can, right? And hey, man, I'm just saying they could be comparing the wrong guy to MJ. I mean, he's wearing a jersey with the Nike logo on it, and it's the Jordan logo right here with the Mavs jersey with the man, number 77. So, I don't know, man. He got a Jordan deal as well. I mean, Anthony Edwards too, but it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, right? Now, I do, you know what I mean, have to take a little response. And listen, the series isn't over, but
yeah,
I got to eat a little bit of crow, right? I did have the Minnesota Timberwolves winning the series. And I said, right, I felt as though the Timberwolves were the more complete team, but I couldn't be more wrong, right? When you talk about getting contributions from everywhere on the roster, the Mavericks have, right? Kyrie stepping up in the clutch, Luka stepping up in the clutch, right? There's been sprinkles of Luka magic throughout this entire series, right? But funny enough, right? And as we always say, I love my stats, and this is actually a pretty interesting one for this series so far, at least as I track up until Game 3, right? The Mavs have 50 lobs in this postseason, right? The next best team has 9.
Yep.
The next best team has 9 lobs. That's 82 more points, and that's just on lobs.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Right?
Lob City.
And this just goes to show how perfect the signings of PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford have been, especially Daniel Gafford, right? Where I believe it was Tyson Chandler that talked about it, right? When he was talking about Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. This has been something that this team has been looking for years, right? When you talk about Luka being, one of the most prolific passers in the league, a very aggressive scorer, one of the best things to match a guy like that with is a lob target. It's just easy. It's just easy points.
Yep.
Right? Because a big part of Luka's game is the drive. So if I'm driving on you, big man steps up, the lob is right there. And that's what we saw in Game 3, right? That's where we saw that and-one lob dunk from Daniel Gafford on a play just like that. And when I saw that, I had to look this up. I'm like, yo, it feels like they throw a lob every other play. And sure as hell, they have that. They're leading that stat back by a fucking landslide, right? So again, series isn't over. But that's definitely something that the team in green has to be looking at, right? You have to be looking at.
And I think just real quick, Derek Lively, he was dominating them in Game 3, and it looks like it would have looked like we probably would have ran away with it pretty early, but he got hurt, and I think early in the second quarter, Cat kneed him into the back of his head. It was a scary moment. He was basically on the floor, couldn't barely move, and just felt dizzy for like a few minutes. So that's something to monitor. He was out Game 4. He is questionable Game 5. So we'll see we'll monitor how he's been doing, if he's able to play, because I think just his presence alone will help us. But with one guy going down, there's another guy who stepped up, and that's Maxi Kleber, right? Talking about a guy who dislocated his shoulder, right, in the previous series in the Thunder, right? And he was out, I think, almost a month, if not at least 3 weeks or so. And so, for him to just come back, and I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like he came back a little bit too early, right? When you dislocate his shoulder like that. But hey, man, he showed it back up today. Obviously, he said in the pregame where in pregame and postgame that he's still not really confident in shooting his three because he's still trying to ramp up shots and everything. So that's why he's either trying to pass it back or just drive to the rack, right? But it was great to see him on there, especially on the defensive side, because I think these past the Thunder series, right, and especially the Clippers series, I think too, we've missed him a lot in the sense that he was the perfect guy. He's a perfect big where he could guard multiple positions but also shoot on the offensive end, and he can shoot. He can get pretty hot if he's if he catches a rhythm, right? But all I'm gonna say is that I think we rushed him back because we saw in Game 3, even though we won, we brought in Dwight fucking Powell. And Jason Kidd reviewed the film. He's like, Maxi Kleber, give me what you got.
Yep.
I'm not putting him back in. I'm sorry, Dwight Powell. If you're watching this pod, it's no hate. It's just that right now, I'm not trying to see that. I'm not trying to see that. It's literally, I'm just yelling at my computer screen or my TV. I'm just saying, I'm like, why are you in the game? Why? And and then in my head, I'm just saying, my mental health is just deteriorating, right? But I can go on forever and forever. I could go on forever and ever about Dwight Powell and Tim Hardaway Jr. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, and again, one game away. Yeah, one game away from
not finished.
Gotta close it out. Like you just said, like Kobe's famous for saying, job is not done. You need 4 wins to win a series. You don't need 3, right? Yep. So again, like I said, I definitely expect for Dallas to, really try to close this one. Mm-hmm. And we'll see, right? I believe the game is in Dallas, right?
No, it's going back to Minnesota actually.
Is it
Game 5?
Game 5?
Yeah.
Right, because they were the
Minnesota was a higher seed. They were a 3 seed.
This last game was in Minnesota, wasn't it?
No, it's in Dallas.
Oh, I keep forgetting. Yeah.
Other way, yeah.
Yeah. So I was about to say, because I don't think so far we've gotten I don't think so far we've gotten a team that closed out the series at home.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You guys out there, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think so far every single series has been the team that's closed out the series on the opposing team's floor. Even the Celtics were getting the sweep. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, I think the Celtics did. I think both times actually they closed it out in Game 5. They were the higher seed, so I think they both closed.
Actually, wait, no, I think the same thing with the Mavs because we won in 6. That would mean that we played at Dallas because we were lower seeds.
Oh yeah.
I think so.
Against the Thunder. Right?
Thunder. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So okay. So it so far it has not happened. Too frequently. So we'll see. If the Mavericks are able to get it done in 6. Get it done in 5. But only time will tell. But listen, if you guys have any thoughts about, what happened so far in the
Drop
playoffs?
them down.
Drop down in the comments below. Whether it's about Jason Tatum, Rudy Gobert, Luka, right? So, we definitely are open to that dialogue and those conversations, right? Again, you guys have been going crazy on our social medias, on our reels, on our TikToks.
Yes.
Definitely got some more clips coming your guys' way. Definitely got some more content coming your guys' way. So be on the lookout for that.
Ain't going to stop.
No, we listen. We are not stopping here. We still got a game 5 to talk about, right? And then ultimately we got the big shebang, right? The NBA Finals. So we would definitely
Finals preview
that. Listen, we got, and trust me, once the finals end, we have so much shit planned coming up after that, right? So I'm just hoping you guys are ready for that. So with that being said, all our social media links will be in our description. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe, and it's been a No Bullshit podcast, man. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir. Peace out.